There we go. So everybody's starting to come in. How's everybody doing? Welcome to the call. I can see the number growing. As always, we're just waiting for everybody to get into the room before we get started. So just hang on for a minute and relax while the room fills up. It's moving pretty fast. I'll be right back, guys, while we're waiting for the room to fill up. We'll give it another couple minutes and then we'll get started. Yeah. I just wanted to confirm that emails are going out to like the day of and the day before to let them know about the call, right? That's what we were writing about that on the Fearless team page, and I didn't get a response on that.
What we're doing is we're asking, because I know we're going to get a lot of them.
Jonathan, mute yourself. Thank you. All right, welcome everybody. We're just hanging tight for a minute. There's still a lot of attendees coming into the room, so just giving everyone time to join. If you did the homework and had any realizations or questions, throw them in the chat. If you just want to say hey, you can put in the Q&A if you have something more formal. Also, while we wait here, we haven't done this yet, but everyone got people from all over the world. So if you guys want to put the country you're from, hello from, Australia, Germany, wherever you're from, or city, if you're from the US, state. Thank you, Shiraz. Yeah, Shiraz is commenting on my hair. Dude, I needed a haircut badly, like just before the self-isolating started. And now like every barber shop is closed. So, since I'm talking more today, I thought I'd, take a shower and mat the hair down a little bit because, dude, it looks like a bush is growing on top of my head. So be excited when lockdown ends and I can get a decent haircut.
Hey guys, how you doing? So we talking about something important there?
We are, yeah, very important.
Talking about haircuts.
My hair and the need for a haircut,
Yeah, I just shave my head every couple of days and get my, I need to do it. I'm actually overdue.
We might all have to start that. Have the Brian Beijing haircut. Can't go see the barber.
Go on Amazon. They have those little head shavers. It's so nice, and you get it done. And that's the best thing I've ever bought in a long time. The thing's amazing. Okay, we've got more people coming in. There'll be more people coming in for the next 15 minutes. I've noticed that pretty consistently over the last few calls. So just kind of be prepared for that. Now, one of the things I want to prepare you guys for with this call with Josh here, and Josh is awesome. Josh is a former accountant, a professional high-end accountant. He knows numbers and like nobody's business. So when it comes to what we're going to do today, Josh is the guy to be talking to. He knows how to get people out of debt. He knows how to get people to pay off huge debts to all kinds of stuff. I mean, he's worked with clients in the container program and got them out of debt in pretty record time, right, Josh?
Yeah. Got some awesome stories, guys, paying off, 10 grand of debt in 3 to 6 months. We had a guy paid off 40 grand of debt in less than a year.
So that's the type of stuff we're talking about. Now, for those of you that are stressing, that are not wanting to be on the call, or wanting to get off the call because you're stressing over looking at your numbers or looking at your money reality, this is the perfect opportunity to hear the stories coming up in your head. So I want each of you to take a moment, get a pad of paper and a pencil. As we're going through this call, if you get stressed, if you get worried, if you get filled with doubt, if you get filled with anxiety, anything coming up, I want you to write down the thought and the emotion that's coming up. And notice if one's coming up repeatedly, like you might have the same thought and emotion over and over. You might have different thoughts coming up. And I want you to realize that's all releasing material. That's huge releasing material. And we can use that to start releasing on your money reality. The stories you have about enough, more than enough, about being abundant. I mean, this is money for taking your life to the next level financially. Just even if you don't get all, like if you go through this with Josh and you can't get it all together yet because you're too anxious, writing all that down could be the thing that changes the whole course of your life and moves you from just getting by to abundant. Literally, it was something like this where I worked on my money reality and I just made a few changes and my whole life started skyrocketing. My income went through the roof. So if nothing else, look at this as an opportunity to clean out your subconscious mind. Interesting, getting internet. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, it said internet unstable for a moment, just like my laptop does. So maybe it's not my laptop. I don't know. This one isn't mine. So again, have a piece of paper, have a pencil, pen, write down the thoughts and the emotions that come up in relation to what Josh is talking about. And if you get good thoughts and emotions, you'd be welcome to write that down too and just notice that. If you got anxiety, fear, doubt, worry, numbness, nothingness, I'm feeling nothing, I'm feeling numb, I don't care, whatever comes up, so that we can start to release on it and we can start to do releasing. Clear about what your feelings are. If you do nothing else but that, that can be huge too. And if you actually do the exercise that Josh is talking about and you go through it, and whether it's right now on the call or after the call, that's more opportunity to write down more thoughts and emotions so you can do more releasing. Because once you're clear and clean, this stuff will be easy. It'll be like, oh, just going through the numbers. And that's the key, is you want to get to where you're clear and clean emotionally about the numbers and your finances. Okay, so with that said, Josh, being you were in one of the top 5, I believe, right? Accounting firms. You were like big time.
One of the big ones.
Yeah, and so Josh knows his stuff when it comes to this stuff. So this is an opportunity to learn a lot from somebody who not only knows it but lives it and is very good at it. So I want you guys to perk up, listen, and take this stuff. I don't want to say seriously because I hate the word serious, but really consider the information at a deep level because it can be life changing. Okay, so Josh, are you ready to take over?
Yeah. Ask guys to chime in where they're from, and it's pretty cool. We got guys from all over. So we got France, Belgium, India, Canada, Toronto, Chile, Indiana, Norway, Germany, Washington State, Bangladesh, Croatia, Hungary, Alabama. What's up, Chris? London, Gary, Brazil, Idaho, Poland, Ireland, Switzerland, Philippines, Austin, Texas, Portugal, Turks and Caicos down in the Caribbean, Israel, Philly, Iraq. Man, it just goes on and on. That's just, running out of time. But anyway, so we got really cool people from all over the entire world, guys. And, this topic is a big one. Money is a big topic. And then obviously as it applies to different cultures and places, there's different situations, right? So it's impossible to cover everything at once. So I did my best to kind of distill this down to principles that apply to everybody. And then at the end, we'll have some Q&A. So if you have specific questions for your situation, you can throw that in there. So today there's gonna be 2 parts. One, I'm gonna have like really practical things you can do. You can leave this call and you know exactly what to go do if you want to get a better handle on your financial situation, understand it better, and ideally be more proactive about continuing to get more solid financial position. So it's something you feel good about and enjoy, whereas most of the world is afraid, nervous, and like Brian was talking about, have a lot of underlying feelings that get stirred up. So I'll give you practical stuff that you can do. Like I mentioned earlier, I work with guys in our container program. It's a remote coaching program. I give them, when they want to work with money, this is right where we start, what I'm going to give you today. And like I mentioned earlier, guys have done amazing things with it, paid off huge amounts of debt. We've had guys come to $7,000, $10,000 workshops when they've never been able to save more than $2,000 on their own, and really start to expand their lives. The guy I mentioned earlier who paid off 40 grand in debt, then later he went on and did some amazing traveling around the world, staying in nice hotels. He's a foodie, so he booked, I think he booked 3 Michelin 3-star rated restaurants in Europe. And so that really shows how you can go from a place where the money controls you and it's a fear-based thing where you feel a little trapped, to using money as a way to expand your world and reality and, do the things you always dreamed of doing. That's the proper use of money. And that's what we want to, help all you guys take a step forward in doing. So to start though, so there's gonna be the practical aspect, excuse me. But then we're going to start with a little bit bigger picture, just to give you an idea of where you're going. And then also there's some just important kind of mindset belief systems to bring into this. Again, most people have a poor relationship with money. They weren't taught solid principles by their parents. And I'm talking just an emotional relationship with their finances, right? So if I just go straight to the practical, and you guys aren't aware, aren't good at releasing those things, what a lot of people tend to do is go into all the fears, doubts, and worries they have about money, the way their parents or family talked about it. And all these subconscious limiting beliefs really create some anxiety and uncomfortable feelings, and people don't even realize they carry these. So what Brian told you at the beginning of the call is really important. Write down what you're feeling as we talk about it. If you have any realizations about your beliefs about money, that's really important to write down too. A lot of people have these limiting beliefs, like money's bad, money's really hard to get. If I have money, then, I'll be a target, or, my family won't like me because I'll be different. I mean, many people really have these. It's not just, a one-off weird thing. I'd say it's almost more common than not. So you want to start to become really aware about what your subconscious beliefs are, because I promise you, whatever your subconscious beliefs are, that's being reflected into your money reality right now. Your current financial situation. Pause. I got a note that my internet was unstable. Your current financial situation is a reflection of your beliefs and emotions towards money. There's no two ways about it. How you feel inside and your beliefs is going to affect the way you see the world, including opportunities, including allowing money to come in. So that's why that stuff is so important. It's the same thing Brian teaches with the dating or the self-confidence, all the same thing. At Fearless, we always want to go to what's the root cause, okay? Adjust that, and it makes everything easier, okay? It's basically like it's like carrying around a bag with a bunch of bricks behind you. You don't even know it. Then you start becoming aware, taking brick by brick out. And over time, through that releasing and changing your beliefs, it makes a drastic difference. So that's what we are going to do today on the topic of finances. So let me hop over and share my screen here. Made some notes for you guys. I think it'll be a little easier to follow along with what we're talking about. Okay. So let me move my video here. Let me pull up the chat so I can see what you guys are saying. Not perfect, but it'll work. Vikrant, you said you just got in. Hopefully it's not very late. No problem. We are just getting started, and you can go rewatch the replay in a day or two for what we talked about at the beginning. Okay, so managing your cash flow during times of crisis. That's the title of the webinar today, just because of the current events that are going on. And we know, we have people and just going about day-to-day life that people are really affected by the lockdown and things like that. So we want to put this together to make it really practical for you guys. But honestly, even in a time of great abundance where everyone's happy and things are going perfect and smoothly, you'd still want to do these things. That's a mark of a successful person, is you get your routine, you get your approach to the world, you get your way of seeing, acting in the world, and you're consistent with it. You don't break from that, no matter if it's, times of abundance or times of crisis, no matter if you're feeling really, really high or really low. You want to find the true principles that work and lead to success and follow those no matter what. Most people are all over the place. And the problem with that is they don't have any consistency. And if you don't apply any method, applied without consistency is not going to work. You could get the best method in the entire world. If you only do it for 1 day or 1 hour, it's not going to work. And then what people tend to do is say, oh, that didn't work. I need more information. I need to go learn more. Not the case. You needed to be more consistent. So again, this is the title of today's presentation, but I do this stuff every day, no matter what's going on. 2 years ago when I was working with clients in the container program on their finances, we did the same stuff. It was a very good time. So it doesn't change at all. The external changes, but the principles of success really don't. So, okay, why is it so important? And what I mean by why is having a handle on your finances and understanding of where they're at, where your money comes from, where it's going, where you're spending it, and how those numbers stack up. Are you bringing in more than it's going out, or vice versa? Why is that so important? I mean, obviously it's important, for your meeting your basic needs. So you have, you need money to do that in today's world. But there's other reasons why it's really important too. This is one aspect of being a solid man. Okay, it's hard to be a financial mess and still be a really solid man. Have your stuff together, have your life together, go about your life in a certain way, have a certain presence and personality to yourself. It's pretty hard. Money's a big topic. It's the currency of the world. It's how we exchange and interact. So doing this.
Citibank. In a few moments, you will have the option to speak with an employee in your branch
Sure.
located at 4455 Peary Boulevard, San Francisco, California.
I'm going to mute Jonathan.
The service.
Yeah,
There we go.
it was Jonathan.
Oh,
He has my name on him, so you should change your name to Jonathan so they don't think it's me. Or maybe that's not Jonathan, maybe that's Cairo.
I don't know. There's Cairo too. There's another
Right.
Brian. Anyway, we got it.
Anyways, I wanted to say that you just made a really good comment. It makes you a solid man. How much, when it comes to releasing, how much, when you don't look at your money, how much fear is created by not knowing that? Because the key to becoming really solid is clarity and certainty and getting past this unknowing. So what you're talking about is getting to a point of awareness, so much so that you can release all the fear around it, because you can't release the fear if you don't know what's going on. So
Yeah. It's about self-trust. If you have an area of your life is important, but you're burying it, you're not looking at it, then even if you bury it so much that you move it from conscious awareness, there's a subconscious awareness. There's a little stirring. There's something that's like, feels uneasy in your body. And because it knows, deep down, it's impossible to really, truly lie to ourselves. Again, consciously we do it all the time, but subconsciously there's a feeling of unease. So, it's important to build self-trust that, hey, I understand what I want in life, where I'm going, and what's important to look at. You wouldn't neglect your health. You wouldn't let yourself get, incredibly sick or malnourished, right? And this is a different aspect in today's current society, your financial health. For those of you guys that are here mainly for women in dating, how can you expect her to trust you if you don't trust yourself? And if you don't trust yourself because you're not handling key areas of life, and what's needed, then it would make no sense to ask her to trust you if you don't. So this is one aspect of building self-trust as a man who, has his shit handled and goes through the world in a certain way. So it's not just about getting rich or flaunting things or other negative stereotypes that people sometimes associate money with. It's about taking care of yourself. Okay. And so it's really important to understand, going off what I just said, that money is a tool. It's not good and it's not bad. It's just a tool. Is a hammer good or bad? It depends, I guess. It depends on the way you use it and how you view it. Okay. So again, if notice if you have any inherent beliefs from your family or society that says money is bad. If you do, it's going to keep money out of your life. I promise you. So that's a belief and emotions you're going to want to look at and release that so you can get clean on it. So what money really is a neutral tool to meet your basic needs, first and foremost, right? Food, shelter, transportation. And then after that, it's a tool to make life more comfortable. It doesn't make you happier. There's lots of miserable millionaires and billionaires. Okay, that's a huge, huge fallacy. And a lot of people waste their entire lives chasing money, thinking that when they get it, they'll be happier, only to find out that, you know, usually money just amplifies how you feel about yourself. So it can make you more happy or more depressed and upset, depending on your emotional state and the way you feel about yourself. But what it can do is it can make your life more comfortable. You know, definitely someone who has a lot of savings, a lot of money that, oh, you know, the fridge broke, I need to replace it. Boom, no problem. Oh, this car is getting old, it's breaking down. I've been in the repair shop a couple times. Hey, I don't want to, you know, deal with this. I have the money saved to buy a new car. You know, same thing with even the trips and things, travel that guys do. It can make your life more comfortable. And it also, very important to look at it, it's fuel for your growth, experiences, and options. Okay. And people with options, generally successful people, and they don't get pinned down. Okay. Because you can just move and adjust to the situation and do what's right for you. Also, in terms of growth, you know, the vast majority of my investing and use of my money to this point in my life has been investing in coaches and training and personal development. And it's paid off many multiples over what the stock market would have, or probably any other investment. You know, I'm not saying that's the only thing you can invest it in. There's, you know, dispersing is a good idea. And, you know, we'll have an investment advisor to talk about the different options for ways you can invest your money. But it really is a feel for growth, right? So my life changed drastically when I heard Brian speak at a conference, loved what he was saying, loved the philosophy he was talking about, and had the ability to go attend Experience Workshop the next weekend. And then when I saw how powerful that was and how much it affected me, to be able to find the money, you know, I thought I didn't have it at first, but to figure out a financial solution to come do some of his advanced workshops and training, that, you know, that saved years and maybe decades off my growth curve, right? So, and I'm saying that because we deal with a lot of clients or a lot of guys calling in that want to come work with Brian or work with our team and, you know, develop their solidness as a man, their confidence, their ability with women, all these things. And a lot of times, you know, it's not their desire that holds them back, but it's their financial reality and their beliefs about money. So starting to shift that to look at money as first of all, as a tool, and then as something that can help you, it really takes off a lot of the charge and a lot of the, you know, the stigma and just messy emotions that clog the energy between just bringing more money into your life. And I used to hear people say that. I was like, that's, you know, easy for you to say, like, doesn't work that way. It's really hard. And, you know, you have to fight for a scrap for every cent, and it's hard to get, and it's easy to lose. And what I didn't realize at that time was that was just a reflection of my beliefs. You know, I was positive that was the real way it worked. But it wasn't until I started seeing other people had a very different reality and belief system, and therefore a different experience with money, that made me think and realize, like, oh, actually I am creating that, you know, now how do I go about changing it? So this is how we're going to look at money. It's just a tool. It's not good or bad. It's a thing, and your beliefs and perceptions are going to determine how you view it. So the keys to what we're going to talk about in terms of,
Josh, can I add one piece to your list that I
Yeah.
think is important? You tell me what you think of this. Money also on an unconscious level or on a conscious and unconscious level, a lot of people, it's unconscious because they don't realize this. Your ability to manifest money, create money, use compounding interest to multiply your money is equal to your ability to manifest in the world. It's a physical representation of your ability to manifest physical things in the world or experiences in the world, physical and experiential things in the world. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean it'll make you happy, but the experiences can lead to happiness. The ability to buy your mom a house, or to give her a gift, or to be able to supply for your family, to be able to give more abundance in the world. Your ability to make money is your ability to affect the world on a material level. And that energy, the greater that energy becomes within you to be able to create that effect, the easier it is for you to make money, because they go hand in hand. I'm not talking about on an emotional, spiritual level, although having a lot of money can cause that, because then I can go out and create a program, and then I can go do all the spiritual, energetic work in the program and have the program hit way more people than I could have if I didn't have the money, for example. So your money is equal to your ability to create energetic and physical abundance in the world. Do you want to comment on that?
No, it's pretty good. It's right in line, and it makes sense. It's a good way to think about it too. You talk a lot about your body being a vehicle that you go through this world in. And so looking at it that way, I love looking at it that way, because it's very empowering, right? You always say you take full responsibility for everything that happens to you. When you look at it that way, your financial reality is as a reflection of what you are bringing through your body and creating in the physical world, and how much value you're creating. Then if you're not happy with that, you have the ability to change it, as opposed to a victim passive mentality where you feel it's just a random occurrence and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome.
All right. So guys, some of the keys to this discussion. Number one, really importantly, you must understand, and Brian says this all the time, I learned this from Brian. You must understand where you are and where you're going. Okay. So really important. A lot of people out there like, I want $1 million. I want, 10 grand in the bank that I can spend on whatever I want, car, travel, trips. We're very good, and our society and the marketing machine is very good at getting you to want and to project out in the future. Okay. But what people really struggle with is the first one, knowing where you're at right now today. When Brian first said that, it didn't really hit me. So if you're sitting there being like, that's obvious, or of course, take a second and see if you can take this a little bit deeper, because it's not till you really get it in deep that this makes sense, and it can start to change your life. Okay. Most people don't want to look at where they're at right now, or they want to be like, okay, yeah, I'm here, but anyway, this is where I'm going. This is where I'm going. And by doing that, they never get honest with themselves. They never make the uncomfortable changes that are required to get where they want to go. So what happens is they just perpetually look at where they want to be, and, don't move towards it, or move much more slowly than would be needed if they could get honest about what's going on right now. Because once you're honest about what's going on right now, it's pretty easy to see what needs to change, and then you can do it. Now, the change isn't always easy. A lot of times it's quite uncomfortable, but it's also a lot of times not complicated, okay? We complicate it because we overthink about it, because we're trying to run away from our uncomfortable feelings. Okay, let me say that again. Usually we're trying to run away from our uncomfortable feelings, to not have to feel them, to make the change that we need. And that's what makes things complicated, because we just think about it. But if you're willing to get honest about where you're at right now, you can see clearly the current situation, make an accurate decision about what needs to shift or what you need to do to move to your goal or end result as rapidly as you can. Anything you want to add to that, Brian?
So I was answering one of a question on the Zoom chat. So I got a little off track when I was answering that question. But I think if you're talking about where your starting point and your end point, which is basically what you're talking about, you got to know your starting point and your end point. You must have that. If you're going anywhere, and on a positive thinking level, positive thinking people, some of them get addicted to looking at the end point. I'm creating this, and they deny their now. And in doing that, it's like a map. If you don't know you're in California, you can't get to New York. You can't get to where you want to go if you're not honest about where you're at now. At the same time, if you dramatize, get upset about, angry about, don't appreciate where you're at now, then you can't get to the end point either. So you gotta, it's like this is the goal. I'm in California, I'm driving to New York. I love California. I love every state I drive through. I'm going to find something interesting about it. I'm going to find something to be grateful about, whether I'm driving through a beautiful desert in Las Vegas and I'm seeing the sunset behind the mountains and it's gorgeous. Whether, wherever I'm at, I'm going to find something to be grateful about, which is going to make the whole trip and the whole transition to New York beautiful and amazing and 10 times easier. Because if I'm upset and I'm angry and I'm frustrated and trying to get away from where I'm at, there's going to be all kinds of problems. Imagine that magically, energetically, because you're angry, you do a lot of stupid stuff. You end up getting a flat tire, you end up getting in a car wreck, you end up, because your whole trip manifests equal to how you feel about the place you're at. And so that whole transition from one place to the next is so easy when you love where you're at, knowing you're growing to another place that's even going to be just as much or more fun. This is the same as not knowing where you're at, even loving not knowing where you're at to the point where you know where you're at. And then the whole transition to getting a clear picture of your money reality, and then the whole journey to getting a solid money reality. It's a whole, if you can love every step of that process, which is what releasing is about, then you're going to find that getting to that end result, it's not only going to be easier, it's going to be faster. And you're going to get, it's like magic, all kinds of, your subconscious is going to sort for all the things that make the end result that much better, because it's used to seeing good and gratitude. So it keeps searching on a subconscious level for things that are going to amplify that feeling in you. That's law of attraction, law of vibration 101. And then what happens is you get more and more of that feeling. So you get more and more results that match that feeling over and over and over again. And you take a nice ride all the way to a killer investment accounts, a killer retirement, killer savings, killer everything. So hopefully I explained that well, Josh.
Yeah, that was great. I'm going to just keep rolling. Yeah. Okay, another key, this is similar to what Brian's just talking about, but being solution oriented. Okay, I notice especially the last couple weeks with everything going on, so many people are problem focused. They just obsess over the problem. Okay, so it's fine to know the problem or the current situation, again, the now, but you really got to watch your thought pattern and emotional pattern. If you constantly go to the problem, why it won't work, why it's hard, the lack, then that's what you're going to get. If that's all you focus on, then that's you're going to bring to yourself. That's what your subconscious will be attuned to, and it'll look for ways to validate those thoughts. Vice versa, if you continue to focus on the solution, what's the solution? Where do I want to go? Whether it's, I want to get out of debt, I want to make rent this month, I want to save my first 10 grand, I want to expand, get 6 figures of savings in my account, whatever level, you got to start to look at what's the solution? What do I do today to take the next step towards that? You don't have to know every step. You don't have to know how to do it. All you have to do is have an open mind and say, this is where I'm moving towards, and put your energy towards doing the things that, the next step that you think will take you there. That's how you find the solution over time. If you obsess over the problem, you just stay with the problem. And then lastly, again, Brian was touching on this a bit too, but gratitude. Again, this one used to be really hard for me to hear from, other teachers or self-development people. So I didn't feel any gratitude. Felt a lot of other emotions, but not that one. And it was frustrating. And it also just didn't make sense. I'm like, okay, let me sit down, and I'm supposed to be grateful. I'm not grateful for anything. I feel afraid and, low self-esteem and things like that. But the more, I've gone on my journey, seen what's worked with Brian, other successful coaches and teachers. The key thing with gratitude is that it's the opposite of the fear-based mindset. Okay. So I used to live in lots of fear, constantly worrying what's going to go wrong. There's this problem, that problem. And that just creates a downward spiral. Okay. So again, it doesn't mean you can't look at the current situation and what the facts are, but most people take that way beyond what's needed or reasonable, add a lot of dramatization, negative emotions, and go down this very toxic hole that won't allow you to see any solutions. Being in the state of gratitude is kind of the hack that is used by successful people to get out of the fear-based mindset, to get out of the lack mentality, and allow their minds to open to see the solution that's right for them. One other thing I love that Brian taught me that kind of blew my mind, he taught it in the releasing workshop, is the law of polarity, and this specific application that it's not possible to have a desire for something without the way for you to achieve that desire already in existence right now. Not 2 months from now, not 2 years from now, but right now. And the gap between those is, again, related to our mindset and belief. If my mind's closed and I'm stuck thinking about fear and why it won't work, well, how would I ever allow the solution to come into my head? How would I ever try the 2 or 3 things I need to try to stumble onto the solution, right? So the gratitude helps you stay out of the toxic pattern and gives you a much better chance for exploring, experimenting in the world, putting energy out there so you can bump into the solution that's right for you, that's going to take you where you want to go. All right, so speaking of the solution, so where you want to start with all this, and again, this is a little bit more conceptual, but I'm going through this stuff so I can frame your guys' mindset, because if I just go into the practical and you're still stuck in the fear, the lack, the problem mentality, that's all you're going to do. You're just going to apply that thinking to, the action steps I'm going to give you. So we're doing a lot of work up front to help you shift that or see why it's important to shift that, so you can apply it when you do these exercises. So I'm going to show you how to get the handle on your financials, get a clear picture of where you are. And then from there, you're going to have to get really clear on what you want so that you can start moving towards it. And again, that can just be an abundance mindset. You could have tons of money in the bank already and just want more. You could already do some cool travel and just have even bigger plans, right? Some guys are really impacted by by current events. Yesterday I was talking to a client who's a barber. His shop's closed, and he's really been impacted by it. So he might have a more short term. What do you want? He might need to be hustling, doing some other way of bringing in income for this month or the next 3 months. So just depends, but again, the principles are solid, so you can apply it no matter what situation you're in. Okay, so once you know what you want, this is really key. I was listening to David Nagel yesterday. He gave a great presentation, and I took these 2 questions from him. So there's different ways to phrase it. Different teachers will say it different ways, but I thought this is really relevant for what we're talking about today. Okay, so once you know what you want, you got to ask yourself, what do I need to do? Okay, and like I said earlier, you don't need to know every single step. You don't need to have it all charted out. You just need to know what's the next step, or what do I think the next best step to take is, and then to take it. Brian tells an awesome story about Thomas Edison inventing the light bulb, and said it took him 10,000 tries, and he would just try all sorts of crazy stuff just to keep his mind open and creative. So Brian would say he tried one using peanut butter to connect the filament and allow the electricity to go through. An absurd idea, but it didn't matter. His idea was like, how do I stay open and creative, so I can land on the solution. And for all of you guys financially, that's such an important question, because what I see almost everyone do is just close down. You see they have blinders on. There. This is the way the world works. This is the way the reality is. This is the truth about money. And they're not willing to open and look. And if you're not willing to open and look, then, you will just get this. But if there's anybody else in the world getting something different than you are, you really have to take a step back and ask, is what I think, is that really true? It's not true for that person. So, is that really a law that applies to everyone? Or is it something that, my current understanding believes, but there's probably a different way to look at it or act that would give me some different results, right? So you start to look at what you need to do. And then this is the question that I love. Am I willing to do it? Are you willing to do it? In terms of this conversation, in order to change your financial reality, take the next step, whatever you want to do in your life, are you willing? This is a great question because it helps kill the victimhood. And I see a lot of people in the chat starting to chime in. There's some comments about victimhood and things like that. The am I willing to do it is a great antidote for victim mindset or scarcity thinking, because it shows really clearly, you know, if you're limiting your options, again, because of your current beliefs. Now, again, everyone, you can do whatever you want to do, right? I love Gary Vee says this. He's like, you can do whatever you want, but if you're not getting what you want and you're sitting at home playing video games all day, or you're not willing to change your thinking, then don't complain, because you're creating that. That's what you're choosing for yourself, right? And especially in these times, people are having to scramble, get creative, look at other ways of doing things. And a lot of people don't realize it, but they're just not willing to do something different. They're not willing to change their thinking. And that is the core root of what's going to keep them where they are, not necessarily the fact that there's no option or no opportunity. And again, guys, I'm not denying the fact that it might be difficult. It might suck. It might be, you know, the last thing you wanted to do, but it still doesn't mean that there's not an option out there, right? And again, that this type of thinking is really important because it just helps you expand and find different solutions. And people who grow a lot are usually people who can put this hat on. You know, again, when I look at my old self, looking at people, man, how did that guy blow up his life? Man, how did that guy end up there? How do I get there? I never really tried this mindset on and this way of thinking about it. And so what was actually happening is I had firm beliefs that the world is this way, this is how things are. And on top of it, I wasn't willing to try, you know, I was willing to try this much, just what was in my limited, narrow understanding and comfort zone. And so when those two things mixed together, that was like done deal. That was like a recipe to stay pretty stuck where I was. So, you know, again, it's try on this way of thinking, try on these questions, and it's not just because it's uncomfortable, it doesn't mean it's not, you know, possible. And that oftentimes, a lot of times, because it's uncomfortable, it's outside your comfort zone, which means it's different than what you're used to. You know, that might be the very thing that leads you to where you want to go.
Can I add one thing to the two questions and see what you think of it? I want to get your opinion. Then ask yourself these two questions. What do I need to do? Am I willing to do it? And I would even add to that either a third question, a second, kind of an intermittent question. What do I need to do? Or I would adjust that first question a little bit and say, what do I need to do right now? The reason I say right now is it's okay to write down what you think you're going to need to do a week from now, a month from now, a year from now to get plan the whole thing out like a business plan. But most of that's going to change anyways. Most of that's not going to be accurate. And the real question, where the real tension is, what can I do today? And am I willing to do it? What can I do immediately? And am I willing to do it? Versus, because a lot of people, when they think about what they need to do, they think about steps that they're not even going to get to for weeks from now. And it overwhelms them and they stop, because it seems impossible when it's weeks away because you got to do 10 things before it. So what am I willing to do right now is scary in a lot of ways, because I can literally get up and do that right now. and am I willing to do it? It becomes a really important question. So I want to hear your comments on that.
Yeah, spot on. Amazing. That's a really good distinction. And I'm going to update these slides for that. Right now is the key, because you're totally right. I've done it a million times where I just project out to the future. Okay, that's what I got to do eventually. And I just sit there and think or don't act. So yeah, right now is the right way to think about that, and will lead you to, you know, the answer much faster. Okay, so we already talked a lot about this. So just ask yourself, you know, and so say after this webinar, tomorrow, or over the course of the next month, when you're looking at finances, for example, ask yourself, am I being solution focused right now or problem focused? And if you find yourself going down the problem focused route, if you can hop over to solution focused, you know, man, that can make all the difference. 99.9% of the world is in the problem focused area right now, and it probably will be for the coming months. So that gives all the more opportunity to people who can jump over and look at things from a solution focused perspective. So you may, and probably will, have to do things you didn't used to do, or that are outside your comfort zone. And again, guys, that if you're in a situation where you're heavily affected right now by the social distancing and the lockdown, that could be talking about today, this week, this month. If you're a person who's, able to continue working from home, getting their same salary and doing the same job, maybe you're thinking about that in a longer term over the course of the next year. How can I drastically shift my financial position? Again, the principles are the same. So just apply it to your situation where you're at. And
Really quick, just a comment. Whoever's got my name and is commenting in the Q&A with my name, switch it to your name so people know it's coming from you, the answer. Because somebody on the panel, it says Brian Bajan, it's not me. So, okay, cool. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, go for it.
All right. So now the more practical side, how to get a handle on your finances. And we're going to talk about, I'm going to teach you guys the way the most successful startups in the world think about their finances, and then how you can leverage that for yourself, for your own personal situation. Okay, it's particularly relevant right now when we're in crisis mode, lockdown. The economy is just taking a total 180. That's the world that startup companies live in every day. So they're already used to, having systems in place to handle situations like this. Okay, so the first concept to understand is runway. Again, that's a term used, it's very common. It's in startup company language. And the definition, or the one we're going to be using today, is it just means how many months your money can go if your income and expenses stay the same, right? So if I'm spending $1,000 more per month than I'm bringing in right now, and I have $3,000 in savings, my runway is 3 months. Okay. In 3 months, I'll have used that $3,000 in savings to cover the expenses that are higher each month than my income. Okay. The second term we need to think about is called burn rate. And the definition we're using for this conversation is just the change in cash each month. So like I just said, your income minus your expenses. In the startup world, almost every startup company is, spending money and not making as much income. They have an idea a lot of times in the tech world, something like even Uber. I haven't followed their financials for a while, but for years, and maybe still, Uber spent way more money than they brought in. Why? Because they're building market share, investing in the quality of the app, trying to expand the scope and size of their business. And so they had investors pouring money in, saying, yeah, let's fuel this growth with money, and then on the backside, we'll get our money back. Okay, so that's how a lot of startup companies operate. And again, especially if you're a guy who's been impacted in your job or your salary or your wages, this probably changed for you in the past 2 weeks to a month. So for yourself, your own personal finances, this is part of your homework. So hopefully you guys did it, but you're looking at what are you bringing in each month, and then what's going out each month. And the difference is your burn rate. Now, again, in the startup world, the company's always spending more because they're just trying to grow and get a huge audience, which they know will turn into money later. In the personal finance world, just individuals, for you guys, it's a negative assumption to assume everybody's burning cash. So I also want to think about a term, I don't know if this exists, but I've made it up for this presentation, the build rate, which is, when the burn is positive, which means each month you bring in more than goes out. Now for personal finance, you really want to be doing that every month, or if you're not, again, ask these questions and apply these mindsets we talked about earlier in the conversation to build and get to a point where that is the case, right? With the build rate, that's how you have extra money for savings, for retirement, for investing in yourself, and for fun, taking cool trips, traveling the world, doing things like that. So you'll have to figure out for yourself whether you have a burn rate or a build rate right now? You know, is more money going out or is more money coming in? You know, and it's amazing. It sounds so simple, but most people don't look at that and they don't know. And so that's how people get into tons of debt, wake up one day with tens of thousands of dollars of debt. And like, how did this happen? That's how people never take that dream vacation or do that dream, you know, course or workshop. They just say, oh, someday, but they don't have a handle on what their financial reality is today. And therefore they never change it. And therefore someday always stays out in the future. Okay. So ideally, you want to move to a place where your build rate eventually. Now you won't always be. You know, some wild times in my life, the burn rate was huge. But a lot of, you know, when I started with Fearless, it was. I invested a lot of money in those workshops. But again, just like investors into startups, I knew that was going to pay off long term, and I had the ability to, you know, to handle that time period. And actually, it paid off way faster than I expected, which is great. It's nice when investments do that. But you have to, hey, Brian, can you mute yourself? All right, thanks. I got a little bit off track, but anyway, so you just have to monitor that for yourself. So it's not, again, one's not right or wrong. Nothing is, it's all just, you know, a neutral thing. And the more you understand it, the more you can apply it to your life and situation the way you want and be successful with it. That's how people who use their money well do it. That's how all companies do it, which are for-profit enterprises and are kind of in the business of making money for their shareholders, along with, you know, providing value to their customers and clients at the same time. All right, so that's it, guys. Not too many terms to understand. So again, to recap, your burn or build is just your income minus your expenses. Okay, if that number is negative, it means it's a burn because there's more money going out than coming in. If that number is positive, I'm calling that build here, which means you're bringing in more than is going out. And you're able to build a savings or, you know, invest or put your money towards something else that you want to do with it. And then the other thing we'll look at is runway, which is just taking your savings, the amount saved, and dividing it by your burn rate, right? Again, in the simple example I used to start, if my burn rate is $1,000 a month, I'm spending 1,000 more each month than I have, and my savings is 3,000. Okay, I have 3,000 in savings. 3,000 divided by 1,000 is 3. So I have 3 months runway if things keep going consistently the way they are until that money is till the money is exhausted. All right, and that's literally how, you know, simplified version of how most successful companies you read about in Silicon Valley or the Wall Street Journal look at their situation and then can see where they're headed and make the appropriate changes they need to make to, you know, be a viable entity long term. And that's exactly how you can look at your situation now to say, hey, this is, you know, I'm in a good spot, or wow, something needs to change. But it's much better to find that out 6 months ahead of time, 3 months ahead of time than, you know, next week when you're wondering, you know, how am I going to buy my groceries and food? Okay. So now what I'm going to do, let me see. Sean approves of my new vocabulary word. He's a professor, so that's official. Sounds good. I'm just checking the chat. What if you have debt you're trying to pay off? The build rate will be 0 all the time because the extra will be going towards debt. Cool. Good question, RJ. We'll cover that in this next section. That makes no sense on build rate. Yeah, if you have a build rate, Mario.
Really quick, for the guys out there, if you got a question for Josh, specifically put it in Q&A. If you're just commenting and you want to have a chat and the other coaches will be looking at this stuff, go ahead and put that in the Zoom chat and we'll be typing in answers. Coaches, make sure you're looking at that Zoom chat to answer questions. So go ahead and answer that question. It was a good question, but I want to make sure that because we're not going to get to the bulk of the stuff you put in the chat, but the Q&A we're going to try to get to. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just trying to get a pulse on where these guys are at. If they're following along, if, you know, they have questions, and just so I can incorporate things in this last part here. So guys, this is the last part before we go to Q&A. I'm just going to show you some practical things you can do. This was pretty much in the homework, but I'm just going to give you a live demo of it right here, so you can see how it works. Not everyone's numbers inclined. Sometimes spreadsheets look like Chinese to people who don't speak Chinese, so I get that. So I'll give you a little, simple example of how we look at it, and then again, it's you can use it however works for you. So the first thing we want to look at is burn rate, okay? And to do that, we need income and expenses, right? Because burn rate is income minus expenses. So income is usually easier. You have your, you say your monthly paycheck. If you're an employee, say you're making 2,000 or something. Other things that would apply there would be stuff like tips. If you have a side hustle, some people who have investments or rental income, anything that brings money in, you include there. But the average person, say, just has a paycheck. Let's say this person doesn't make any tips. So their monthly total income is pretty much what comes in their paycheck. Okay. Now expenses, just a lot more and varied, and that's true for people, and it's also true for companies. You usually have a source of income that you bring the money in, and then you have all different things you spend it on and use. So the first thing you guys want to look at are, what are your staples or necessities? Okay, that's stuff there's non-negotiable. You can't not pay it. Now some of these things are adjustable, and we can talk about that later, but you want to capture these things. So food, you're always going to need food. Utilities, rent, car or transport, and I would put phone, internet in today's day and age, and especially in these times, so you can stay in touch with people. Those are like, the basics. And so you're going to go through, I had you guys, the homework was to do this for 2 months, but over time, a longer period of time, you really start to get more of a handle on your spending habits, right? Now everyone's spending habits have drastically changed or changed quite a bit in the last 2 weeks. So going forward, it might be different. Most people are cooking at home a lot more. Groceries are cheaper than eating out. Stores are closed. So you're not buying as many clothes and sneakers and things like that. So stuff changes, that's why it's important to know how to do this. And so you can, again, keep a handle on what's going on currently with your finances. And so you don't end up with a huge surprise later on down the road. Okay. So I'm just going to plug some numbers in here. What you would do is go through your credit card statement or bank statement. European guys, if you use more cash, you ideally want to track that so you have more accurate numbers. The more accurate, the better. Then you can see what the reality of the situation is. But so I'd say go back through credit card bills and figure out what these are each month. Just put in some numbers there. Okay, so total necessities. And then you total up all of that. And right now with the necessities, we're at 1,600. So lastly, you would total up any other expenses, anything else you spend your money on. I'll give you a list of them. Some of the most common is like personal care, health and fitness, if you go to the gym, health insurance, stuff like that, dining out. Put that as different than food because, the food is an absolute necessity, to get by, especially say you're someone who's a little pinched and you gotta get a little tighter with money for the time being or save, dollars and cents or euros or yen or whatever. Dining out's usually more of a discretionary. So that's why I'm separating those out. Taxes, if you're self-employed, especially, save out money for taxes. A lot of people get a surprise tax bill at the end of the year and it wipes them out, leaves them scrambling. So you want to understand what that amount is as best you can, and plan for it. And then there's things like, shopping and travel and entertainment. Okay. So you guys might have more, but these could cover, up to 80%, 90% of what you do. If you want to use different categories or labels, do that. But what's the idea here? The whole idea is to get your arms wrapped around where is your money going, okay? And I promise you, if you did this, it's not where you think it's going, but it's where it's actually going, okay? So that's what's on the statements. People are so shocked when they do this and put it down on paper to see where their money is primarily going. Can be a big wake-up call. So use your statements or where the money actually went to capture it. And then what we have at the end, is easy to figure out your burn rate. Okay, take your total income. For this example, we said it was 2,000. So let me just say, there's 50 in all of these discretionary. And then total expenses. So total discretionary is coming in at 300. And so your total expenses are at all the necessities up here: food, utilities, rent, car, plus anything else you spend your money on. Okay, in this example, the total was 300. And that is your burn rate. So for this example, it's positive. So this example, the person actually has a build rate. So they're bringing in 100 more than is going out each month, right? But say expenses were higher, say it was 2,500 a month. That person's burn rate is 500. So each month, 500 more is going out than is coming in. Where does that 500 come from? Either comes from a bank account and savings, or it comes from debt, adding to a credit card or something like that. And so what you want to look at now, especially if your income is changing currently, do this exercise to get an idea of where you're currently at and compare it to your bank account. Now, some people might be in the situation where they realize, oh shit, I have a year's worth of runway, right? I could go for a year at this current state and I'd be okay. That's great, And so a lot of people who are panicking and freaking out and following the mass, hysteria of the media, maybe don't have to get lost in that tornado of emotion, right? Now, again, I'm not saying you ignore the current situation. I'm not saying you don't make plans, you don't think proactively about how to, keep taking care of yourself and putting yourself in a situation to win and succeed. But that's very different than, getting lost into, again, the hysteria and crazy energy around, fear, doubt, and worry. That's not really related to the facts. It's just related to an emotional firestorm, which a lot of media and news outlets make money from. So that's kind of their goal, because they get more clicks and views and sell more advertising. Vice versa, this may look more grim to somebody when they do the exercise than it looked 2 months ago. Again, that's the reality of the situation. Then you can use that information to, make your next moves. And if that is your situation, the key thing you can do there is use that energy, use that realization to go back to the questions, we talked about earlier. What do I need to do right now? Right? Brian's addition, this moment, today, and am I willing to do it? Because doing this exercise, if the situation is grim, it can change your answer. If your answer used to be, I'm not willing to do it, after you do it, it might be. And it's just, the reality of the situation of what you would need to do to take care of yourself, provide for your family, or, yourself or whoever is in your life, to make it through this time as successfully as you can. Or again, if you're somebody who's building more long-term, to make the moves now. Again, if 99.9% of the world is in the fear, worry, shutdown category, 0.1% that can get in the solution-oriented mindset, there actually is a lot of opportunity. I've been listening to some really interesting business podcasts and speakers and coaches. And, there's lots of examples out there of people who've expanded business and are doing well. Again, that's not everyone. It's not most people, but it's obviously a possibility because it's happening for some people. So I really hit that point home because it's just important to think about, the mindset you take is going to really heavily influence, which path you go down and where you end up.
Josh, can I throw in something? If you're negative in your burn rate, the first thing I would do is do a bunch of releasing to get out of the ag flap: apathy, grief, fear, lust, anger, pride, around being negative. So you can get to at least a point where you're neutral or you're okay with it, and you can, because you won't be able to see solution. Remember, Josh said earlier, we've talked about this many times in other calls, you can't have a law of polarity states. You can't have a desire without a way to achieve it. So if you want to way out of a negative burn rate, the solution's already there in your environment. You already have it, because the solution by law, natural law, has to be created the moment the desire is created. It's actually, the solution's there almost first. It's like at the same time, actually, they're created at the same time. But you won't see the solution if you're in a really negative. It'll be hard to see the solution, let's put it that way. If you're negative, fear-based, anger-based, if you're really stuck in it, once you can start to be the observer of the anger, get some separation from it, start to be able to relax, even if it doesn't fully go away, then you'll start seeing solutions. Then you'll start seeing the solution that's already there. It's not like it magically appears out of nowhere. It's just you couldn't see it before, because the mind, if it can't accept the starting point, which is also what Josh talked about earlier, if you're not good with accepting and being okay with your starting point, it's really hard to make clear decisions on where to go to get out. Like, if you can't accept where you're at right now, how do you know if you need to turn left or right to get to New York? If you're in denial about where you're at right now, how do you know if you need to turn which direction, north, south, east, or west, to get to New York? These are very, very important points. So this is where your releasing power comes in. So make sure you're writing down anything that's coming up that's stressing you or worrying you, and just start releasing on it right now. Or after this call, during, and right now, we can talk about that more. Okay.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, guys, last couple points, then we're going to move to Q&A. As Brian was talking there, I added the last piece of this. So I added this savings for this potential example, again, staying with 3,000. So if the person has a burn rate of, say, negative 500, and their savings is 3,000, then their runway, what they have left before, how long their money can last, is 6 months. Okay, and that's just taking the savings, dividing by the burn rate. And to somebody who's math inclined, earlier in the chat, I saw you point out that doesn't make sense when the burn rate's negative. So, I just adjusted that in the formula there to make it work. If that doesn't make sense to you, don't worry about it. It's a little technical point. Okay, so, but again, so then through this exercise, this person can see, okay, cool. Right now, based on how things are today and the current spending habits, I have 6 months. And then you can make or adjust, whatever adjustments you need to. Like Brian just gave you some, releasing material and practices you can do to help make those adjustments too. Someone in the chat was just commenting like, hey, do you think it's okay to have a burn rate? Does it have to be, is it really bad if it's negative? Does it have to be a build? Again, nothing's good or bad. There's all types of different situations, so I'd have to talk to you specifically. But I've had times in my life where there's a burn rate. Like I said, when I joined Fearless and invested in some of these workshops, it was a big burn rate. But it was I had a picture of my finances, and I knew what I was doing. And I was like, this is where I want to go in my life. This is the training I want. This is the skill set I want to live by. So I made that decision, and it was a time of burn rate. Now, what was cool is after that, year or 6 months when I was doing the workshops, that was followed by a period of it became a build rate, where I started bringing in more money than I was spending using those skills, and I had, I started working for Fearless, but I had job offers that were significantly higher than I was making before. So my build rate could have even been higher if I'd left Fearless, but I loved what I was doing. And, the internal skills I was building were worth more than that other money elsewhere. So the answer is no, neither's right or wrong. You can make a decision that's what's right for you. Quite honestly, sometimes the pressure of a small runway really forces people out of their old habits and out of their shit into really making a move and doing something. You know, even for me, like when I, you know, my income and account was going basically to zero, that really forced me to look at the world a different way. The stuff that I was afraid to do, suddenly I was doing. So sometimes that pressure and tension can help a person. I don't, you know, again, you have to know who you are, your situation, how you behave, and all that. But one isn't right or wrong; they just are. And you know, this is the tool you can use to get the full information and make an accurate decision. Okay, the last point I'm going to make before Q&A, RJ, you'd ask a question. What about debt? Right? It's a good question. So in this example, you can add. You can just add debt as part of your budget, right? Excuse me. Let me put it here. I don't know. Some people's debt is really like a staple. They need to be paying it every month. Some people it's you know, they pay the minimum and then they decide how much they can pay on top of that, you know, student loans or mortgage, things like that. So let's just say it's in here. So you can literally use this, RJ or guys watching. What we did to this point is historical. So you looked at your old spending habits, what was happening, to get an accurate picture of the now. You can also go and make a budget, which is forward looking, to start to change it if you don't like the way this looks, okay? And so you do it the exact same way. You just make a budget with all the same income and expense categories, okay? Because that's where your money comes from and where it goes out. And what you do with something like debt or something like savings too, savings would work the same way, is you build it into your budget. So RJ, say you need to pay a minimum of, you know, $50 a month in debt, but you want to pay an extra 200 to get it paid off faster. So boom, you put 250 debt. And say you know, after doing this exercise, you realize your runway is not as long as you would like. You want to have a longer runway, so you need to start saving and building to do that. And then say, you know, you build that into your budget. So say I'm going to save 100 each month. And that's what I'm going to do. And so you can really just build it in. Now, you know, when it's a budget and it's something like savings, you know, you'd want to get your burn rate closer like to zero, right? Because it doesn't make much sense. Oh, I'm going to save $100 a month, but my burn rate is negative 500. That means 500 is going out the door. So with a budget, you would look at all these expenses and say, what can I adjust, you know, to make that work? And actually you look at the expenses too, you know, so like, first question, how can you bring in more money? How can you raise your income, do a side hustle, start making tips, you know, get creative and bring in more money. That's the first and, you know, fun way to do it. And barring that, you can also look at expenses. You know, if saving 100 is a huge priority, what's less of a priority? You know, maybe you don't go, you know, shopping, or you go shopping less. So you got to figure out what's important to you and how you want to allocate your money. But with the budget, you chart out all this stuff, get the burn rate to either zero or a positive, a build rate, you know, but we're kind of building the savings aspect in here. So again, we could go a lot more into it. I could be, you know, a little more specific and do all these different situations. But I think that's plenty for now to give you guys the general idea. And we've been going for an hour, 15 minutes already. So I want to hop over to Q&A.
I want to say really quick that I see a lot of people talking about investing, putting money away. What do? You know, all that kind of stuff. We're going to get heavier into that when Jonathan, I believe, gets on the call talking about the investing portion, the extra money, and how you're going to do that. I will say this. There's two things I want to address that is a common question right now. Like, what if my runway is really short and I don't have much money and I've got all this debt and I got to pay it? I'm sure there's some of you in that boat. If your runway is really short, then it's time to renegotiate your debt. And people are really understanding right now because of the situation. Now, what does that mean? I heard one coach say, tell people you can't pay for 3 months and just say, I'll start paying again in 3 months. I have a minor problem with that. Is that, and I found in my life, if I stopped paying, then I didn't want to start paying later. It was like a subconscious message that said, I can't pay. So what I would do instead He said, if I had to renegotiate my debt, I would still pay something, even if it was a small amount. I never stopped paying. I don't care if it's $5. I never stopped paying. That way, my subconscious mind gets it that I never stop. That's number one. Number two, so even if it's a tiny amount, if I have to put it away somewhere, but keep it moving forward so that I get that feeling that I'm moving in the right direction. And that's the main thing I want to say. And number two is when it comes to savings, I always put a little away in savings, no matter how much debt I have. I don't care if it's $5 also, because that starts to create your mindset that I'm building something for the future and I don't touch it, even if I don't have the money to touch it. One of the greatest decisions I ever made was when I decided putting money in savings. I don't care if it was a dollar a month, $5 a month, and then I would never touch that money except for putting it into investments. The day I did that was when I actually started to build a real net worth. And the more I built the net worth, the faster the net worth grew by law of vibration and law of attraction. But before that, I would save and spend it, save and spend it, save and spend it. It was gone like that. So as long as I put something in there and I was willing to even lose everything not to touch that, that's when my whole life changed for me. Now, again, it can be tiny, tiny amounts if that's where you're at right now, just to keep your money moving, to keep you alive for the next month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, however long this lasts. The estimated time of getting the economy moving again or getting us back to work is April 30th. So from what I understand right now, it could get pushed back again, but I don't think it will at this point. I thought Easter was a little, originally it was Easter and I thought that was a little aggressive, but April 30th is probably realistic. So did you want to say anything about those 2 points?
Not too much. I mean, I'll tack on. I mean, they kind of stand alone, but, again, for the, I liked what you said about negotiating, looking at your bills, what can you pay, negotiating it and at least putting a little something. That's awesome. That's really huge. It keeps the momentum going. And shows good faith to the people you're doing business with or providing for you. What I do want to add to that is, and I also see a question here, and I think a lot of people would have this question. Sunit said, please tell us some practical steps to increase the income column, right? So Brian just gave a couple, an overview of what you could do to decrease the expense column, right? Negotiate debts, rents, things like that. And actually I went on social media because here's the key, guys, like everybody is stuck. Most of the world wants to bitch and moan and complain and have this doomsday apocalypse scenario. Okay. And all that does is get you more of the same, right? Like we said, the whole webinar, it doesn't mean you don't think about the reality and acknowledge the facts, but stop there and make an accurate decision about how to go forward and move in the direction you want to move, solution oriented. So I was searching social media for examples of people who are doing this and not giving up or playing the victim. And I'm just going to read some tweets and Instagram posts of people who did this, did what Brian just said. Here's one guy, called my banks and creditors. They're waiving fees, forgiving late payments, freezing payment plans, and or making sure you won't be penalized for missing next month's payments. If you're stressed about your cards, give them a call. Another person, I was more persistent getting a hold on my student loan payment and got them to put it on hold. It saves me $125 a month during these tough times. Every little bit counts. Just called my landlord and cut my rent in half for the next 5 months. My wife was laid off for the next several months. And then they're saying some other non-relevant things. So just some examples of people, and you can hear in the tone, none of those people are being victims. None of those people are, saying, oh, poor me. They just proactively, made the decision, had the conversation they need to have and cut their income. So one of the things, like 2 weeks ago when this was all hitting and we we're just first in California, at least being told to stay inside, and like the world was changing fast. And, I started seeing my thoughts and my emotions really kind of be a lot more variable than they really are. I was like, wow, this is a crazy, really crazy time. And so it really helped. I loved it because it really gave me a lot of awareness of like, wow, how does my mind work? What are my thought patterns? What's the first thing I'm thinking? And it also revealed some deeper, feelings that is good releasing material that I don't normally get in touch with. It also revealed limiting mindsets. Like, how is my mind working in a way that's not supporting me to win and have success? And so One of the exercises I did to start to shift that was I started to look for examples of people winning. Who's winning right now? Who's expanding their business? Who's got something good happening to them, right? Because I wanted to fuel my subconscious mind and my thought process with how do I expand? How do I win? I wasn't denying, everything that was going on. I saw the numbers and the news reports, but within that, environment, there's still somebody out there winning. Not everybody. There's 7-8 billion people on the planet. There's not 8 billion people on the planet who everything is going wrong, right? So what do I need to do to change my view and way of thinking to win? So, back to Sunit, he said, what are some practical steps to increase the income column? What I did for this call, I went and made a list. I did some research out there for how are people making money and increasing their income in this time. So I have a few things. It was actually depressingly hard to do a Google search or a social media search and find anything valuable. Like the first 20 Google results were all newspaper articles on, basically how everything's horrible and everyone's struggling. So I had to dig, but I found some.
And by the way, that's sensationalism. That's not that there's not people out there making money. There's people making boatloads of money. There always is during downturns. It's that the newspapers and the sensationalism sells when we talk about the negative, because everybody gets upset and that's what they use. So that's what gets to the top of Google, not the people that are creating true solutions. You got to remember, most of these news stations don't make money on solution orientation and mindset. They make money on problem oriented mindset. That's why it's really bad to watch these entertainment news stations. They're all truly classified as entertainment businesses. I think there's only 2 news stations that are classified as true news stations that are required to report the details with none of the drama. So if you get the bulk of your news from these entertainment sources that are problem focused, that you're going to become problem focused, and that's all you're going to see in the world.
Yep, exactly. So along that line, that's why I made this list. Just again, it doesn't mean it's right for you, but what's the idea? Put ideas into our heads, our thinking, our consciousness, so that the brain and your internal genius can go to work. That's the fuel that's going to help you find the solution that's right for you, not the sensationalism Brian's talking about. So the first thing to earn more money is, get a second job or get a new job if you got laid off. There's companies hiring. Amazon's hiring 100,000 new people. Heard on a podcast that Walmart's hiring tons of people. In the chat here, Matthew said, Instacart shopper. If you have a short runway, become an Instacart shopper. They need a ton of workers right now. Supermarkets, Whole Foods is one of the top 10 hiring employers right now in the country, and probably, high up on that list for the world. I read an article, Australian supermarkets, Woolworths and Coles are hiring lots of people. So again, to Brian's point too, there's companies hiring. Now, I also want to remind you, notice where your mind goes as I says that. Do you open your mind and start to use that as creative juice, or do you instantly say, no, those jobs aren't for me, I'm not doing any of them, right? And that goes back to these questions I've been harping on, which is, what do you need to do right now? And are you willing to do it? Now, if you don't need to do those things right now, it's fine. You have the option of saying no. But if you feel you're in a pinch and really need something, then look at, well, those are some really basic, quick options, but what's your willingness? Other options out there, selling your stuff. Tons of people selling stuff on eBay, equipment, things they don't need, can get a few months worth of cash flow right there. Freelance websites, there's Fiverr, TaskRabbit, paid gigs. Find a company out there. I listed a few, but there's others that are winning, and figure out a way to work with them. Either take a job or find out what their expanding needs are. And other than that, find needs and fill it and be creative. I've heard stories of people doing pickup and delivery for their neighborhoods, charging some nominal fee so people, especially old people, don't have to go out. Every parent on the planet right now pretty much is going crazy for having their kids in there 24 hours a day, having to babysit them, not having them go to school. So tutors killing it right now. And I guarantee anybody who's coming up with a creative solution that gives parents an hour or two of, solace and something productive for their kids is bringing in money. So, and those are pretty basic ones where you don't even you know, it's just kind of like you could go get a job or fill this obvious need on a freelancing website. You know, if you want to get bigger and think about starting a business, starting, you know, consulting or freelancing work, you know, there's tons of opportunity out there too. But that's just some basic stuff to throw into your minds. Okay. Do you want me to read these questions, or is anyone? I'll just start reading them.
I can read them to you if you want. Yeah, I'll read them to you.
Okay.
You can hear them and you can focus. And Maros, hey, Fearless team, how can we deal with the stories around money? For example, growing up, my parents will say that there is a scarcity of money now. Whenever I'm about to take action, such as to become financially independent or to make my own online business, these stories pop up telling me that I grew up in a poor household, so therefore I will not make it, or it's not going to work due to my background. How can I deal with that? I'll let you handle it. Go for it.
Okay. You know, Brian would have a lot of good things to add to this, you know, because that's all releasing material. So the stuff you're saying, Marios, is those are beliefs, right? And those are views. Sounds like your parents and your household have, you know, but you have the power to change those, right? And the way releasing is the best tool. Releasing and taking action are the two best tools to change those. Okay. Brian's done a lot, did a great webinar 2 days ago on releasing. He might have more to chime in now. The other ways are taking action. So you move forward and start to have experiences in your life that are in contrast to those beliefs and those messages you got. And the more you do it, those old beliefs and messages, they can't really exist because you're proving them wrong, you know, over and over again, and they'll start to fall away. Now, on the path to doing that, if you're saying you don't even take action because you buy into the beliefs too much or have strong emotions, you know, again, releasing is the starting point with that. And then also doing, you know, what I just did with you. I went down and, you know, fueling your brain with things that are the opposite of it. Okay. So it can start to take hold of new beliefs. So I just gave you a bunch of quick ways to make money or ways, you know, people are making money. You know, another thing I did is I went and made a list 2 weeks ago, again, when I saw my mind being pulled different directions. I just made a list of who's winning right now, what businesses out there and people are winning. Because I want to fuel my brain with, again, seeing a different version of reality and start to fuel the subconscious to see that for myself. So, I mean, people who are winning, Netflix, gaming, any streaming services. Shiraz just wrote in the chat, as an online business owner, I could tell you internet sales, have skyrocketed. My clients are seeing great growth because everyone's at home buying online. So look for online companies that will allow you to work virtually from home. Amazon and any delivery companies are winning. Supermarkets, winning, man, selling out every day. They can't keep the shelf stocked. Certain manufacturers, toilet paper, sanitizer, masks, medical equipment, they're busy. Food delivery apps, you know, no one's eating out. We got a client who moved over to Bucharest at the beginning of March. I'm like, how you doing, man? He took a workshop last fall with us and loved it and wanted to spend 6 months there. He has an online business, and he's like, I'm like, how's the food working? He's like, I've just been ordering out every single day, every single meal. So some food delivery app over there is loving him. Supplements, vitamins, immunity boosters, people buying that online. Zoom that we use for all these calls. I mean, I've seen some funny memes about Zoom is the one behind the coronavirus because they're just, you know, business skyrocketed. So anyway, I can go on and on, but notice how I'm just fueling myself with a different reality and more of the reality I want to create, and not ignoring the stuff, not denying it, but just seeing what's going on and saying, okay, how do I give myself the best fuel to go forward? So those are some things you can do.
I love that because both the realities exist, right? The negative reality does exist. There's people out there struggling, and the positive reality where there's people succeeding exists. And what you focus on expands, and you keep focusing every day for 10 minutes a day on the people succeeding, how long before that multiplies in your subconscious and starts to expand out that there's success everywhere, and you'll start seeing it everywhere, even while others are seeing it, not seeing it, because your brain is just sorting for what you expect to see and giving you options in that area. And as tomorrow, so just release, like read, letting go. You should be writing down your stories that were coming up from this call. You should go rewatch the video I did yesterday. and just start releasing on your money reality. There's even a book, I really like the old book, even though it's a little state pumpy, it's the one from the Millionaire Mind book. I think that book has got a lot of state pumpy but fun kind of stuff to do that can really change your mindset around money. So, okay, let's move on. Miguel, and this is an interesting one because I see a lot in this one. Short but short. How can I deal with my parents? They are toxic and I still live with them, depressed, on bed, kind of like that. And I'm talking, I think, are you talking about in the area of money? Because I kind of want to stick to the area of money. This is a little victim-y and you didn't say anything about money. So did you want to say anything about this one?
Not really, because it kind of, everything I just said to the previous question would apply here. Changing, you're right, it's a bit victim-y. So changing your environment, that's, your responsibility. So change it immediately, or if you don't have the financial means, use the tool I gave you, make a plan. And then I was going to kick it back to you because Brian, you've worked through a lot. And also we have a call coming up. Anthony is going to lead a webinar on specifically apathy and his journey out of it. So Miguel, tune into that one.
I think that's a great idea. Releasing on your parents directly too, and getting to the point where you actually can find things that you're grateful and appreciate about them. And if you have a hard time actually doing that, and that tells you you're really addicted to the idea of being angry at them. And so you need to take a look at that. So that's one. And number two is changing your environment, doing both. You need to do both. You need to change the way you see your parents. Even if it doesn't mean that you suddenly agree with them or like being around them, it just means that you're okay with it. Like, yeah, that's the way they are. And I can love them any way they are. And then also changing your environment, like Josh said, is huge. So let's continue on. The next one is anonymous. I'm worried about my job security due to the crisis. It's the income from the job that I'm using to pay off my educational debt. What can I do about this? We kind of covered this today. Did you want to say anything? This one was earlier. So came in at like 11:10. So.
Yeah, I'll add a little. Again, the golden releasing material right there. Releasing is awesome, guys. You can release on some of the things you're most terrified of. You can release on death. You can release, Brian told a story last webinar on Lester Levinson releasing on his ex-girlfriend having sex with her new boyfriend. And, the point is that when you use releasing, it's about taking ownership over your emotions and learning that you can handle all of them, right? And so if you do releasing properly, releasing on these bigger things isn't about, self-flagellation or creating a lot of pain or wallowing in it. It's about experiencing the fear, kind of facing it, or the uncomfortable emotion so that you can let go of your attachment that's creating it, right? And start to go free. So the aspect, of course, everyone wants job security, but the aspect of a person you feel panic or out of control or unempowered, like you can't, you'd be screwed and there's nothing you could do if you lost it, that's going to create negative thinking and a little bit of reactive energy. Okay, so you can release on those feelings to kind of face them and start to go more free. Practically speaking, again, it depends on your situation for job security. Number one is make sure you're doing a great fucking job. Work extra time, make your boss really happy, go above and beyond. If you have a job where you're like, look, that doesn't matter, I'm a waiter in a restaurant and I can't work right now, then again, you do the exercise that I gave you. Start to make a list of people who are winning right now. Companies, fuel your mind with growth and opportunity. Take the list I gave you, expand on it. What are all the ways to make money out there? Specifically if you want a job, here's just another example. I got example after example. So for specifically someone who wants a job and be an employee, I went on LinkedIn and got the 10 most in-demand jobs in the US. So, go read that list. There's store associate, system operator, accountant, healthcare specialist, construction worker, warehouse manager, psychologist, vehicle mechanic, academic advisor or tutor, and delivery driver. That is a broad ranging list from white collar to blue collar jobs. It pretty much, I would really love to meet someone that tells me they can't do anything in that list, right? So, there's stuff out there. There's still hiring options. And then the last thing that you can do, again, all the stuff we already talked about. So do the runway and burn rate calculation and see, what your financial reality really is. And then your question, you're talking about educational debt. So that's probably one of the primary ones that would be eligible to put on pause or cut. So call them, and maybe that would drastically cut your expenses.
Yeah, most likely all educational debt's going to be easy to put back and actually just put on forbearance for 3 months, probably interest free with the way things are going. There's a really good chapter in a Napoleon Hill's book on Andrew Carnegie called How to Raise Your Own Salary. It was written in the 50s on the very topic that Josh was just talking about. And I don't remember the name of the chapter, so I'm going to find out what it is and have Jonathan put it in the email or on the Facebook page for you guys. But it's about how to create, become so valuable that you kind of write your own paycheck. You go above and beyond what the companies expect you to do. You do more, like you become such an important and valuable employee that everybody wants to take care of you. And that's one of the secrets to wealth. It's a powerful, powerful secret to wealth. I see it in my own life, how I've done it repeatedly. And he made it very clear in that chapter. So we'll find out what chapter that is and get that out to you guys. So let's see if we can quickly answer these. So we've got 23 questions. Let's see if we can go through a bunch of them with like bullet point answers really quick. So short. Hi, Josh.
Hey, Josh. One thing that you guys didn't cover is for business owners. Any of these guys that are business owners, gig economy employee folks, sole proprietors. SBA has 2 programs out for them right now. The one is the Paycheck Protection Program. You go to sba.gov and fill out that application. And then there's also the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Both of these are up to $10,000 $10,000 grants. So if nobody has gone to apply for them, they should definitely be doing that. Also, at the state level and local level, there's always funding available for small business, solo entrepreneurs, and gig economy people.
Awesome. So there's more for you guys. That's free money, guys, if you guys get this grant. So that's awesome. Okay, we're going to do rapid fire question answering now. Hi, Josh. Thanks for doing this webinar. What are some good questions to ask myself to discover my thoughts, feelings, and beliefs around money? How do I begin to uncover the deep subconscious thoughts that are preventing me from having the life I want? Go for it, Josh.
So just ask yourself, like, okay, what does money mean to me? If I were to go invest a large amount of money in myself right now, so not spend it, wastefully, how would you feel about that? Ask yourself, how hard or easy is it to bring money into my life? I asked the question, a client this on the phone the other day. I'm like, how much do you feel you're worth? And he said, there was a long pause, and he said $10 an hour. And we talked more, and it turned out that's exactly what he was earning. And I said, well, when you feel you're worth 50 an hour, that's what you'll be earning too. So asking yourself, what do you feel you're, worth or capable of earning? That can take you down a whole rabbit hole, but a lot of good releasing material.
Awesome. Let's go to the next one so we can keep these rapid fire. Brian, you said it's important to have clarity and know in order to be a solid man, but how can you rely on clarity and knowing when events happen unexpectedly outside of yourself? Our foresight is out of our control. Exactly. So having clarity that you don't control the outside world, but you control your internal emotions is it. And when you can release on and accept that and be at peace with that and be at love with that, you'll actually see tons more solutions in the outside world when problems go wrong. Because there is a solution to every problem. That's law of polarity. And also releasing on and knowing that helps you to know that problems will happen, but there'll always be a solution to every problem. And I have total faith in that. That's why we started doing these webinars right away.
Also, all events are outside your control. So the only thing you can control is how you respond or react to them. Brian does a great teaching on being proactive versus reactive. Reactive is the panic and fear and losing your head. Proactive would be what we're trying to do on the call today. So unexpected events happen. Here's the tool and the process you can use to get more clarity on the current situation and then apply it. And then the situation could change tomorrow, totally change. Say it's a totally different world tomorrow. Well, then you just go through the same process we talked today, get clarity again, and then respond from there proactively.
Awesome. David O. Playing the devil's advocate, having the belief money is the root of all evil, i.e. greed, not in me, but in the world, by your standards would be considered a limiting belief. Could you explain how having this belief is affecting my ability to make money. I'm glad he asked this question. How can I change this belief when there is so much evidence to prove that money fuels greed?
Go for it.
This one's beautiful. It's such a beautiful question because whatever you focus on expands. That's natural law. And when by vibration, if something vibrates at a certain speed, it's going to draw everything like to it. So the more you focus on the idea that there's greed in the world, the more you'll see greed in the world. That's how the reticular activating system of the brain works. When you want something, start thinking about it, it shows up everywhere, like that car you want to buy. So yeah, there's tons of greed in the world, and there's tons of giving too. The moment you start focusing on seeing the giving in the world, you start seeing that and experiencing more of that. Whatever vibration you're vibrating at is what you experience more of. So I can tell by the way you ended this question that you believe that there is a lot of greed in the world. And there is when you focus on that. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get greedy people, greedy situations, and that's going to be your whole life. That's why that belief creates your reality. As soon as you start believing in abundance and seeing seeing that they're and believing in good people, then you start seeing them and experiencing them everywhere. It's not seeing is believing. It's believing is seeing. I'm going to say that again. It's not seeing is believing. Believing is seeing. Want me to go on? Okay. Anonymous. Gratitude is something I struggle with as well. I'm not afraid of or worried. I'm actually doing just fine financially, although I have big business goals. And I can feel other positive emotions, but the gratitude, I don't feel anything, numb, which leads to the frustration and some anger. Any thoughts, feedback would be appreciated.
Brian, you do have a good story about this, right? Because you said you used to do the exercise and not feel any gratitude at all. And kind of how that
Stop doing it. Honestly, I just stopped doing gratitude and I started focusing on other positive emotions I could feel. And I kept doing those, and those would expand. Like he has other positive emotions, but I kept looking around for things I was grateful for. And over time, just by the daily focus on saying, what am I grateful for? I found one thing, and one thing will lead to two things, and two things. And then when inside of a month, you now have 10, 20, 30 things you're grateful for, and you can start building an understanding of gratitude. And if you can't feel it right away, and then look in the past, what are you grateful for that's happened to you in the past where you felt gratitude? Maybe you have one memory. That's enough to cause you to find two or to experience another one. Be around other people that are grateful and ask them to share what they're grateful for and feel their emotion, the emotion of gratitude actually coming off them. If they're genuine, you'll feel a vibration. You can start to tune into that vibration too. Anything you want to add to that?
No, that's good.
Vincent. What you do right now is for 21 days. Live by, let go of need, kill the ego. Okay, it's not really a question, but okay, cool. Nick, hi guys. Love the presentation. How do you align your career aspirations with your money aspirations? For example, you're an aspiring actor and you're not making much money. It seems like you're wanting a break to reach those high money goals. How do you compromise your dream as well as achieve wealth? How do you not compromise your dream as well as achieve wealth? Does that make sense? Thanks.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's a great question. I also want Brian to chime in on this because he has some great, money mindset perspectives, but one of which is, again, what I learned from is when he taught me about the law of polarity, saying it's not possible to have a desire for something without a way to bring that into your life existing, and it exists right now. So there's a way to do it. Again, you have the assumption, and there's a lot of evidence out there for it too, but there's evidence to the contrary as well. But your assumption is I'm an actor, I can't make good money, or I can't make it now, or I can't make it quickly, And again, we could definitely go Google like actors who blew up or were multimillionaires before age 25 or 30. So there's people who have done it, right? I love when Brian tells a story about Arnold Schwarzenegger. He made millions in real estate before he made millions in acting, so could a person do both? Well, he did. So I'd say the key is start to see where that belief is. And again, since you have the belief, and I'd say most people would have that belief, you're going to see a lot of examples of it out there, right? But what you want to do is shift and say, where do I want to go? Solution focused. Start to look at and study the people who have done it and fuel your mind and body with that belief and move towards it from that place. Whether you hit it tomorrow or next month or not, that's going to give you the best chance of hitting it.
That's great. And I agree with everything Josh said. Surround yourself with the stories and the biographies of successful actors and how they think. And stop hanging out in the Panera Breads and the coffee shops with all the unsuccessful actors that are struggling, because you're hanging out with the vibration of struggle. And start associating so much with the ones that are successful, seeing them, get around them if you can. Go take classes from them, take workshops from them, the ones that have made money in the business, and look at how they think and feel in their bodies. That's number one. Number two, make sure that you're acting as a true burning desire. And the difference between a burning desire and a non-burning desire is, are you acting to get validation and get money, or are you acting because you love acting so much you want to give it away to the world? Whether you're on a stage making nothing or you're on a stage making $1 million for your performance, do you still love the art? Do you, just because you inspire people, you get them to feel something, you move them emotionally, or is it all about getting? It's really hard to make money when you're trying to get, but when you're giving away and you're letting it come through you because it's your purpose, like when I coach, then yeah, money has to come back at some point, because money comes back from giving. So, what we bring in, by Vikrant, I think I'm saying it right. I'm probably saying it wrong, actually. What we bring in now has come to zero after the lockdown. That's not true. It's for you, not for everybody. If that's your experience, that's an interesting statement. Can't get to work. I have mortgage expenses, car payments. So there's only burn, no runway. I'm looking for opportunities online which I can implement to start new ways of earning. Any different suggestions? We've already gone through a ton of suggestions. This one was at 11:51, so I think the suggestions came after that. Rewatch this video for those suggestions, and it's awesome.
The only add I would have to that is say, how much are you looking for other opportunities, right? What most people do is they look for 10, 15 minutes and be like, oh, this won't work, I'm screwed, or maybe, and then put it away. And then maybe tomorrow you look again. Unfortunately, it might take some work. It might take a lot of work. It might take, nose to the grindstone, all the effort and energy you've got, and that goes back to what are you willing to do? So take the assumption there is an answer out there. There is a solution, some way, somehow there's an answer. Now, what am I willing to do to find it? And if you work with the assumption that there is an answer, and if I just keep going and exploring and trying what I need to, again, putting my best foot forward, asking what can I do right now, taking that step, seeing how it goes, reevaluating, taking your next step, how much are you willing to do that? That's really the question people need to look at, because that's, again, what most people are willing to do, look for 15 minutes or look for an hour, or even, fret for an entire day. I have a good friend who runs a company working with CPAs, accounting professionals. He fretted for a whole weekend, 2 or 3 days, because suddenly his clients came back and said, hey, my business is being an accountant for restaurants. Every client I had just said they can't pay me this month, so I can't pay you. Other clients come back, hey, I specialize in accounting for dentists. Every client I have is closed until further notice. Like, I can't pay you. And so he spent he spent multiple days wondering what the hell is going to happen to him and his company and all of his employees. Now, eventually he landed on the answer, and listen to what he did. He hired a full staff of 4 people to follow along the legislation in Congress of what was going to be put in the Relief Act before it was even signed into law, right? So he's releasing daily updates. Here's what's in the package. Here's how you can help small business owners, get their books in order, apply for the loans that Dave is mentioning, and do it in the fastest way possible. Here's how you can serve small business owners by helping them track their cash flow and project out payroll expenses and keep as many employees as possible, right? So for 3 days, he thought he was going out of business. But the point is, he did not stop, and he came onto a solution where he's actually growing his business right now. He's hiring people. It's totally crazy. But he did that because he's tenacious, he doesn't stop, and he's very solution focused. There's so many other people in his industry, his competitors, that are either going to go out of business or just sitting at home waiting for things to pass. And so that's such a good example of the difference between being solution oriented, being willing to do whatever it takes and sticking with it until you find that answer, versus, quitting early. So, really look at what you're willing to do, because there's people that are, you will find the answer.
Yeah. And the big change there was his emotional relationship, the willingness, the solution orientation is you're starting to find gratitude, joy, appreciation, courage, that there's going to be an answer towards the energy of an answer. Okay, so let's try to keep these answers a little shorter. Let's keep it down to a minute or maybe tops 2, but a minute would be great so we can get there. Because I want to get through as many of these as we can. Miklos, a great answer, by the way. Do you feel the desire, or do you logically see a good income amount from that type of business, which is worthy to achieve? I mean, feeling nothingness in relation to the success towards my business. I guess I feel nothingness. So he feels nothingness towards his business. And so did you get the idea of the question?
I do. Do you want to take it?
Yeah, it's really hard to build a business around something you don't have burning desire for. Some people can do it, and my brother did it by doing I shouldn't say my brother. My brother did it by doing a lot of stimulants, like I did it too. My first business that was really successful, I used a lot of rock stars and energy drinks, and I tore my gut up because that's how I get my excitement for the day for the business, and then I had to bring it all down and rebuild. So now the question I have is, do you have a lot of apathy and numbness around your whole life, or is it just the business? If you have it around your whole life, then it's probably not the business. It's probably your relationship to life itself. And I would take a deeper look at that, really get into releasing hardcore and learn to be happy day to day, and then take a look at your business from that point. Because you need to get some type of passion for whatever you're doing in one way, shape, or form. And talk to the team if you need more help with that. Like, talk to a coach, because that could be a big one in your life to change every part of your life. Igor wrote nothing. David wrote, do you consider trying to get a credit or to finance your personal? Do you consider trying to get credit to finance your personal growth?
Absolutely one option. Again, it really depends on the person and your situation. But a lot of people have done it. If you do it, you just want to be really on top of it and get it paid off, get it taken care of, in a responsible amount of time. If it's a credit card, as fast as possible. If it's a loan, in accordance with the loan agreements. Brian has a business mentor, David Nagel, who has some crazy stories about maxing out 4 credit cards when he had a wife and 4 kids, and that forced him out of his old way of thinking and into solutions to the business that he started and still runs as a multi-million-dollar business. Even in Fearless, just 2 days ago, I was on a phone call with a client. He'd been wanting to take our experience for 2 years and hadn't been able to do it. And, he really only needed to put like 300 euros a month towards it. But for 2 years, he hasn't done it. So he decided to get a credit card to force himself, create some tension to force him to save that money, because he's capable of doing it, but his habits and choices, he hasn't done it yet. So for him, the tension of having, the credit card company to pay was enough to get him into the workshop he wants to make the changes he wants. Whereas, doing it for himself and saving it on the side, that wasn't enough tension, and his old patterns were too strong, and he hadn't broken through them. So it can be done. And for some guys that need the tension and pressure, it can be effective, but you just got to look at your situation. And if you do it, you got to be on top of your game. Also, Dave, Brian's business partner, who chimed in a little earlier there, he told me some stories about how he funded his last business with other people's, money through credit. So he had a clothing retail store and would get 0 interest credit cards to fund purchase of inventory and meet operating needs till the next one. You'd always pay it off before it was due, not incur any interest, and then get another one. Dave, you want to chime in?
Yep, absolutely. I was running 6 credit cards, upwards of $69,000 worth of credit, and then talked my way into a $30,000 line of credit with my garment manufacturer. So we're looking at about $100,000 line of credit with no sales coming in. And I took on that risk and mitigated it by segmenting the payment terms out back on those cards, and went and sold the product and paid all the cards back, paid the line of credit that was ever revolving back, and continued on growing that business for 5 years.
Awesome.
Great. Ron, let's just take a couple more. Anything more than 2 hours is a long time for a webinar.
No, I don't want to, 2 hours is it, but I want to get to Kabir's question. So we got to keep these answers down to less than a minute. Like I was talking about, just if we rapid fire them out, we can get a bunch done at the end. That's what I'm trying to do here. And they don't need, they can go through the videos and take that and go deeper into it. Because there's a lot of these questions get answered over and over and over again in the same videos with different ways of looking at them. So you just got to keep listening and going deeper with it. Maybe I missed her, but how do you get to the solution? That we just talked about problem solution and solution orientation in this video. We talked about it in a video a couple of days ago too. So if you go back to an earlier portion of this video, you see it, but this question was before we gave that answer. Can you give
also just figure out what do you need to do right now and then take that step. And if you're not taking the step, look at, are you willing to do it? Usually the answer is no. If you can change that willingness to a yes, take the next step. You will get to the solution if you keep taking steps, but you don't know the solution right now. If you did, you'd already have it. So figure out what you need to do right now to take your next best step forward and rinse and repeat until it works.
Can you give 5 examples of good investments in this time? No, that's not what the focus of this this call's about. We do have one with Jonathan Turner coming up. Well, we'll talk about that. That's in a couple days. Not sure. Just look at the calendar to make sure you're on that call. A couple days or next week. Ed, how do you practice gratitude? We just talked about this, how to develop a stronger relationship with gratitude. Is it like welcoming and releasing? I started listening to these gratitude motivational speeches every morning. Is doing that just a state pumping, or is it me? No, you have to just search for an actual authentic feeling of gratitude. It's the 1% rule. If you can get it at the tiniest real feeling, not a fake feeling, it will start to grow as long as you just keep focusing on enjoying that tiny feeling of gratitude. Within an hour, within a day, within a week, it gets bigger and bigger. So find one little thing you're microscopically grateful for and then nurture it like a tiny little fire and just watch it grow. Okay, what is this saving for? What is this saving for? Retirement? And there's many reasons you can save. Did you want to go through that?
Yeah, man. I mean, Kabir, it just depends on what your goal is, right? You know, first thing you want to save for is a rainy day fund, just something to fall back on to cover unexpected events.
Like right now?
Yeah, exactly. You know, but sure, you know, you need to save for retirement. Again, guys who do workshops with us will save. I did that myself. You know, guys have dreams to travel the world and go on cool trips. You want to save for that. So it's not necessarily just retirement specific. Myself, I put money towards retirement into, you know, funds and vehicles that do that. I also save for more, you know, say the upcoming next 1 to 2 years for bigger expenditures I wanted to make.
Awesome. Those are great answers. At one point I had like 5 savings accounts going on at once when I first started to learn to save. And I would literally, as I got my paycheck, separate them into all 5 savings account based on percentages I set up. And then whatever I had left over is what I used to pay my necessities and expenses and buy my food. And anything I put over there, I wasn't allowed to touch except for the purpose I saved it for. It really got me started. It's called the JAR system. You can, if you look up the JAR system, TR Becker, you'll see how they break it all down. It changed my whole mindset. Okay, I think we're going to end it right here. It's 12:58. There's a few questions left. Sorry, guys, we can't get to them all. It's just impossible. We try to. I hope you guys love the call. There's a lot of value, I think, created here. And you can really see how this comes back to the whole mentality of money mindset. Now, I want to tell you guys right now, we are going to be creating a mindset program around success and money. That's coming down the pike. It's a little bit in the future. We were going to do it sooner, but this whole thing caused us to go back and work on what we're working on right now, and then we're going to move into that later. So hopefully you guys are interested in that. It's going to be about all these reframes about money, abundance, how you create abundance with money, and promise you, when you understand the science of your ability to manifest and to get a physical representation of manifestation, even through money and so forth, you'll actually be able to manifest women better, health better, other things better too, because it's really the same principle. And the nice thing about money is it shows up in your life as a physical representation of your ability to build that energy. So that's going to be really exciting to do. Make sure to get on the Facebook page and comment. When we put this up on YouTube, make sure to comment there too. We really appreciate it. It helps us to keep the algorithm strong. Make sure to like the video on YouTube when it goes up there, because that, again, if you like, especially if you like during the live calls, it it really helps to put it out there to more people. It keeps everything rolling. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and like and hit those notification icons. And I want to thank Josh for being here. He was awesome. I really actually enjoyed this call. I took tons of notes myself, so I want to make sure I have all that down. And I was actually reconsidering going through this video again. But with that all said, you're getting a lot of thank yous in the comments there, Josh. I don't know if you're seeing them, but people from all
Yeah,
over.
my pleasure, guys. Thanks for being here and chiming in and all your questions. If get in the Facebook group, if you're not, I'm gonna some of these Q&A questions that are left. If George, if we can save them somehow, I'll answer some of them in the Facebook group. And if you guys have new questions that came from it, post them in there. If this goes up on YouTube, just post them there, and someone on our team will let me know and I can chime in. But try and get you guys a few more answers. And thanks for being here.
Hey, Josh, one more question. Somebody asked earlier how they can get a hold of you. They were loving your information.
Cool. Awesome. My email is josh@thefearlessman.com. That's probably easiest. So shoot an email over there and we can chat. Again, if it's just one-off questions or things related to this, put them in the 21 Days to Freedom Facebook group or on YouTube, and I'll be chiming in there as much as I can.
Awesome. Thank you again, Josh. And everybody have a beautiful afternoon. And remember, only the confident really live. Take care.
You think so, dude?